Live. Well, kind of live. Hello, everybody. Welcome back. It's another episode of 17 and some change. I'm Ecudez17 here to give you my 2 cents. Hope y'all's is doing good. Hope your week is going well so far. Happy Wednesday. Happy Hump Day. Um, let's get this proverbial show on the road, shall we? So I wanted to use this episode to um, kind of shamelessly advertise my entire uh, business model. I want to um, illustrate to you guys and gals what it is um, AccuDes stands for and means, and what the whole um, what the whole deal is um, in regards to that. And this isn't scripted at all. I was gonna talk a little bit about like the government shutdown, how the Browns should start Shador Sanders. I was gonna lament briefly on um, sports double headers where the first game goes into overtime, and then the people who are waiting to watch the second game are just are kind of left screwed, chopped and screwed. Um, but but um, it just feels like the right timing um, to kind of, like I said, lay out all the things that my brand offers and involves itself in, to kind of lay out the structure and the product line and the services offered, um, and different things like that. Um, so I guess and like I said about it kind of being unscripted, I understand that an argument could be made for um, an efficient sales presentation, um, with bullet points and sales techniques where I'm trying to create a need and then like highlight how my products like solve that need. Like I understand how that could arguably be a better approach. But that's not what my brand is. Um, that's at least not at this point, because that's not what I am. Um, it's um, I personally prefer to do it this way. If I had funding, I mean not funding, but if I had um, if I had the growth, the resources to have professional, like sales presentations, a sales team or a marketing team, and things like that, then yeah, maybe I wouldn't be above having you know um, professional looking presentations and things like that. Um, and I do some, videos on my social media that kind of presents the products almost in that light. But that's not what this is. This is waking up in the morning, taking a few hits, and coming to chit chat, to talk about usually different things. And but today I'm gonna talk about, like I said, my brand and stuff like that. So um to to start um the conceptualization process, um I guess one would start with the idea of an umbrella. And so um Ecudez Ventures is the umbrella corporation. That's where everything, uh, that's the umbrella corporation, and everything falls under that. And then and then I deem myself um, an Ecudez 17. I am the founder of Ecudez Ventures, and I deem myself founder, owner, all that, etc. So I deem myself Ecudez 17, right? Um, Ecudez originally was seduce backwards, um, and 17 was the year that I felt like I could take on um, an alter ego, um, which at the time was a pickup artist, but ultimately evolved um, into into something far different. Um, Mainly philosopher, um, philosopher, artist, um, creator, visionary, um, humanitarian, storyteller, etc. Um, and So Ecudez 17, um, I held on to. I held on to as a moniker. Um, and like I say and so I have and like I say in one of my books, seduce backwards um turned out to be a very apropos name because much of what is advertised or celebrated in the pickup community is ass backwards. So to have seduced backwards, it was a nice little jab at that. Um, as I said, that name has evolved. It's taken on its own meaning. That's the raw and honest origins of where it came from. Today, Ecudez 17 stands for um, open-minded thinking, um, and creativity, and um, philosophizing and loving. um, humanity. Um, and so I think that's a great thing. I have um, the Way of Ecudes, which is the the book line, is the line of books. There's three books under the Way of Ecudes. Um, I have the handle on Instagram, Ecudes17 handle on Instagram. Um, there's a shoe line as well, which are Ecudes 101s, Ecudes Prisms, um, and more on the way. So um, those are Ecudes's. Um, my IG handle is simply Ecudes17, which is me. Um, and then there's the website is ecudes17.com. Um, so I'll talk a little bit about the website. Um, because I don't think there's any more branches to the tree outside of that. And I'll talk about each of these products individually. But the website, the ecudes17.com website is definitely one to check out. Um, it offers a free to use philosophy forum. Um, it's, yes, a page that um, presents my product line, but it's also what I want it to be um, an entertainment hub. I want it to be one of those websites where you go to and it's fun to be on that website as well. Um, and I think, the free to use forum is a good start. Um, so that's definitely something worth checking out. Um, and I have, um, two, um, hopefully shortly after posting this, we'll get 3 out of 3, but I have 2 out of my 3 books listed on there. So my first book was, um, it fell under the Way of Ecudes, like all my books do. It's the Way of Ecudes, an ethical approach to seduction. And my original intent behind that book was to, as I explained it, to bridge the gap between ethics and seduction. Um, and it it didn't turn out to be this. It did not turn out to be um, this groundbreaking, intricate, layered, um, philosophical, um, untangling of two uh, diametrically opposed concepts, in so much as it turned out to be more of um, more of a dating 101 basics for young men. Um, it turned out to be a lot more of a how to or of a self-help type of book, and um where do people meet, and um attraction, and openers, and different stuff like that. um the solution to an ethical approach to seduction seems to be implicit throughout the text. Um, I advocate for monogamy, the pursuit of monogamy and traditional courtship. I advocate for authenticity and for self improvement to be the um, first and foremost tool, so to speak. Um, and I do highlight um, ideas and concepts that have been around in the community, um, or in the lexicon for a long time. You know, I touch on some of these things, and critique different aspects of different um, attraction theory, if you can call it that. Um, and so, and to the point of, I even at one point I was like, I don't know if the title kind of justifies what the book is. An ethical approach to seduction kind of sounds in depth, right? Whereas it turned out to be kind of dating basics for young men. And so I repackaged the book into another edition, and and that was on the market for, I don't know, a week or two before I missed the original um, casing, the original cover, the original title. Um, it was just way too classic. It was, I don't know, it's too artistic to go to something basic, and it just so happens to go really well side by side with my second book, right? So I kind of created the two covers to be to kind of uh, feed off each other and stuff like that. I don't know how many spam calls you guys get a day, but like, it is wild out here. It's the wild, wild west with spam calls nowadays. I don't even know. Um, but I did after that. So I think the book, um, I think it's worth having just as like cover art. I think the art on the cover is worth a purchase. But no, there's some really good stuff in there. Um, there's some really good ideas in there. I do a good job of communicating with the audience, in in various ways, meaning like um I make it sound like a conversation, or like like I'm involving the reader, um and I'm also, explaining things. It's I I feel like my writing style is pretty engaging and fun to read. And I've been told similar things as well. Um, so I think it's good artwork. I think it's a good read. I think there's funny parts in there. There's enough information in there to altogether make the purchase worthwhile. And I think it's under $5 now. Um, but yeah, I have these set to very low margins. I don't. It's um I don't want to. I can't just say, "Oh, I just want the word to get out," and stuff like that. But you know, um, first and foremost, I try to create things that bring value to people and stuff like that, and I think these do that. Um, the second book in this series is mental health and secular dating. So in the first book, I um I made a case for monogamy as um an example of the ethical approach to dating and seduction. In this book, I um, we looked at some alternatives to monogamy that people um, have pursued and continue to pursue in today's modern world. Um, and I talk about how we don't people don't always fit in generic boxes when you're talking in terms of attraction, when you're talking in terms of dating. Um, a lot of dating advice assumes that everybody is like a neurotypical. It doesn't take into play, you know, mental health, and mental health is an epidemic, and mental health does impact dating and relationships and attraction even. And so I dive into some of that. Um, by I talk about NPD, narcissism, narcissistic personality disorder, um, and what that looks like in terms of attraction and relationships. I talk about borderline personality disorder. I talk about ADHD, and I talk about addiction, and I talk about how all these things, affect individuals and couples. Um, and I think it's a worthwhile. I think that's also a worthwhile perspective to see. You know what I mean? And I think I like the artwork on this one too. Yeah, alternative relationships, Caspifying Your Ghost, and I like the I like the artwork on that one. almost even more so than the first one. It's a great compliment to the first one. You know, they go really good hand in hand together. Um, and then um, the most recent one that I have written is it's it's one about 2020. It's about the year 2020. It's my review of 2020. Um, I wasn't working during the pandemic, and I spent pretty much my time, um, not watching the news, but not only watching the news, um, both CNN and Fox. I was the type um, who would like to see, what each station is saying, um, covering different events and stuff like that. And so, but um, online, social media, yes, yes. But I found myself as well watching many, many, many hours of live feeds on the ground in different protests and uh, or rallies. I was finding myself daily for hours just like watching live feeds all across the nation of protests and or rallies, and it was insightful. It was very insightful and stuff like that. I wrote about 2020 from my perspective. I wrote about we start off, we get COVID right off the bat. Like we get the topic of COVID. We talk about it. We discuss it. First chapter, we get that right out of the way. Um, and just as a spoiler, I think the um, the coverage of COVID was mainly I think there was a lot of fear mongering, and I think there was a lot of control get, taking. I think we lost a lot of freedoms that we had no right losing um, during those during that COVID period, and I illustrate that. I illustrate that. I think what they decided to shut down and what they decided to keep open was BS. I think the idea that you can uh, mandate a vaccine is BS. I think a lot of things about that was BS, and I talk about it. And I'm somebody who lost. Coming back out of COVID, I'm somebody who ended up losing a job over a mask mandate. Just deciding that I wasn't going to do the mask thing. I wasn't going to wear the mask and stuff like that. Um, Not because I was insensitive, but because I felt like the optic that everybody wearing a mask created was more psychologically damaging to the community than the virus could ever be physically. Um, I felt like I felt like, especially in certain cities, but really by and large, I felt like the community is already like downtrodden enough. Like everybody always looks super depressed, like all the time. And like I'm not gonna add to that. Like I felt like masks everywhere added to that sense of despair and hopelessness and nihilism, and I didn't want to contribute to that. I was an assistant manager at the time, and I wanted, to smile at people, and I wanted them to see a human being. And um and besides, it was the science wasn't there, and the people that were proclaiming the science were insert uh, insert insult here. I mean, you couldn't trust any of these experts at the time. They were um, all being phony and malicious and lying all over the place, with their guidelines and their recommendations and their control and fear tactics. It was stupid. And so, um, chapter two, we talk about Kobe. We talk about Kobe Bryant. Um, yeah, we kind of talk about his greatness and um, kind of what we lost going forward and stuff like that. I was um, I was a humongous Kobe Bryant fan. I was a huge, ginormous, gigantus Kobe fan growing up. I I did have enough time in my early years to mess, like I saw Jordan, I saw Space Jam. I used to shoot basketball hoops, 4 or 5 years old and stuff like that. Um, I was familiar with the Bulls and Jordan and Pippen and the championship and the fact that they were the champions all over the place and stuff like that. But I wasn't really a basketball fan until Kobe Bryant came into the picture. And yeah, and I became more of a Kobe fan than a basketball fan, and I spent countless hours like just pretending to be the bean on the court, you know what I'm saying, and just mastering that fadeaway and shit like that, and yeah, nah, so I tried to make like that chapter somewhat like a little bit of a tribute to Kobe and stuff like that. He was a legend. Um, and RIP and stuff like that. And it's unfortunate. It's still unfortunate that we have to say, RIP, in regards to Kobe. Like he had, a lot more to offer the world, and I don't. Um, yeah, but we talk about that, and we talk about who he was, and who he could have, and what we lost, and we even talk a little bit about some of the conspiracies surrounding his death and stuff like that. But just you know um, yeah, we go on, we talk about the George Floyd incident, where I give my thoughts on that, and I don't, spoil another spoiler here. I I think Chauvin was completely out of line. I think uh, you have to be. I don't know how stupid you have to be to like just not kneel on the back of somebody's neck while they're going through distress. They say, "Oh, he was already overdosing and dying of delirium and overdose and stuff like that." And it's like, okay, well, that's definitely more of a reason not to freaking lay down on top of him, right? Like that's definitely more of a reason not to, put him face down on the ground and kneel on his shit. Like it just, it doesn't. Oh, that's procedure. Like cocaine, like that's stupid, like that's a dumbass procedure. And you don't always have to follow like there's situational, like things are situational, like it you don't just kill people, like um yeah. So I thought that was absolutely ridiculous. I talk about that in this book, and then we talk about BLM. We talk about Antifa. We talk about the Proud Boys. We talk about the election. We talk about. I know it's not 2020, but we talk about January 6th. Um, then we compare the left versus the right in regards to like where their stances are on different um, political viewpoints and stuff like that. A little bit of terminology at the end and stuff. And I think this one's a really good one. I think that one's a really good read. Um, I think anybody who, you know, 2020, it was a big time, and if you want different like um, memorabilia from then, or like, you know if you're interested, if you're fascinated by 2020, like I lived it. I mean, you did too. I'm sure you did too. um but um like the politics and stuff like that, like I was just 24/7. Like I was just I was hyper fixated on it. I was hyper focused on it. I was obsessed with the politics of and the the social dynamics of that year and stuff like that. And so that's what you get when you get this book. You get like an inside, like yeah, yeah. So I have a couple pairs of shoes. um One of them is the first one is so they're both vegan leather, and they're both handcrafted in Italy. Um, the first one is black, white, and gray theme. Um, Mainly white. Um, we have zebra print to get that black and white, and we got a gray marble sole um, bottom. Um, inside the tongue. There's a pretty cool apple drip going on. Um, I've gotten tons of compliments on these sneakers. Um, there's something they're kind of shaped like Air Force Ones, but they're not. They're Equidez 101s. And I don't know, they're nice. Like there's something about them. They're just like they're 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 nice. Like they're nice. Um and they're mad comfy too. There's something about like I guess leather shoes where they contort to your foot. You know, I've never felt like hugged by a shoe like that. And like when I put it on, it just like shapes to my foot and it's really cool. Um and yeah, like that texture is a little bit different than what you're used to getting like and it's sick. It's really cool. Um yeah, really cool. Um and then the second pair um they're pricey but worth it. Pricey but worth it on the first one and on the second one. The second one is interesting. They're called the prisms. They got all the colors of the spectrum of light. Um, very different from the black, white, and gray. Well, on the 101s. Um, and so these are cool because they serve multiple purposes, and these can be kind of thought of as like a bridge because today your first instinct would be to assume that they're, and especially I think I have the tagline that says something about sexuality. um you would assume that a rainbow themed shoe is geared towards a certain community. We'll just say that, right? And it can be like um geared towards the alphabet, the LGBTQ community, and definitely like that's I think that's like a perfect a perfect gear for parade for your parades and stuff like that. Um, you know, um, on the other side, it because like I don't want to yeah, on the other side, um, it can be used as um, it can be viewed as the sign. I apologize. I'm kind of stuck on a thought here. I'm kind of stuck on a thought. Um, because I know what half of my audience might be thinking, or because now we're opening up I got a rainbow sneaker, right? And I'm telling people that they can wear it to like pride parades and stuff like that. And but like I just I don't have anything against. I was just talking and thinking about this the other day, and it's like, the LGBTQ community, the leftists, They could have all been like chilling. They could have all been like happy and like just like engaging in their cliques and doing their heathenism, good or bad. They could have just been playing their gay games, dressing up, being furry, and like doing each other and calling each other he's and whatever they wanted. They could have done whatever the heck they wanted and had their own community of fun and rainbows and butterflies, and I would have been 100% cool with that, and mostly everybody I've ever known would be pretty much completely cool with that. The only thing I don't like is that they want to take over America. Like, not all of them, but like the portion that acts as a gang, like the really radical, like the ones that just like the Antifa type, the ones that hate America, the ones that think America only represents shit and ass and freaking oppression and hatred and needs to be toppled and stuff like that. I don't like the communist undertone of the movement and stuff like that. You know what I mean? But like outside of that, if you could separate that from like the being gay and having parades about your gayness or whatever, like good for y'all. You know what I'm saying? But so yeah, if you're gonna wear them to a parade just to like have fun, then that's good. But if you're gonna wear them to like stomp on the U.S. flag, then that's not what they're for. You know what I'm saying? Um, I have no problem with people repping LGBTQ with those shoes, being allies to the see even the term allies, but like being allies to the perceived cause. But like don't be hating. Like don't be destructive. Don't be so full of hate. You know what I mean? Like celebrate your shit, but like don't try to tear down the nation and whatnot. You know, and but on the other hand, uh, if you're so they're definitely for moderates on the left. Oh, wait, which side? This is my left. But they're definitely for moderates on the left. They're definitely for people within the LGBTQ community that don't want to burn flags. Um, and I think that's a good barometer. Like if you're gay and you don't want to burn the U.S. flag, by all means, please buy those shoes, right? And then, but like, and so if you're on the right and you're like a conservative or like a straight person and you're like, why the hell would I buy a rainbow shoe? Like, that's stupid. But well, think of it this. And so once upon a time in the when God made the floods on the world for 40 days and for 40 nights, he made a promise that he would never do that again. And for people to remember his promise, he made a sign. And the sign was a rainbow. And he said, so now, after every time it rains, a rainbow will come up and remind you that I'll never flood your asses ever again. I'll never flood you guys. This will be a reminder that the rain will always stop. I'll never flood you guys for another 40 days and 40 nights in a row. And so he brought that rainbow, and a lot of people always thought the color scheme of a rainbow was cool. You know what I mean? And so like you can reclaim that shit or not reclaim it, but you can share it. You know what I'm saying? And that's why my shoes are a bridge. My shoes are a bridge because gay people can wear it because it's the rainbow, and then straight people can wear it because God said so, and so everybody wins. Um, and it's really cool. Like it's kind of got that Ronald McDonald like little bit to it. Um, but but purple's really cool, and like every every color has like its own place. Like every color has its own like piece of the pie, and it works out really good. And then the inner tongue is really cool as well, just like the other ones. um and yeah, and so I'm uh working on another pair for the future, but these two exist right now, and they're great, and they should definitely be looked into getting. On the prisms, I do recommend going gentle with them. Um, if you if you pull, I've noticed if you pull the loop on the back, um, you risk pulling some of the stitching, and it's just the type of material, um, and the location of the loop. But um, it's not worth changing the material because that purple pops where it is, and it really makes a shoe. And I had issues with the first one. The first one, I'm putting on my shoe, and I pull from the hook in the back, and it cut, and I hear a couple of them tear, and I'm like, that's not good. Um, and so I definitely want my audience to know about that. But ever since then, knowing that, keeping that in mind, and being reasonable when I'm putting on my shoes and stuff like that, I haven't had that issue with the second one. The second one's completely intact. It's been over a year. Um, um, so and it's cool. It's a cool shoe. It's a cool shoe. And then I got my Instagram. You can check me on Instagram, which is pretty cool. Like, I have maybe 10 to 15% of content I create myself. But really, I do a lot of sharing on there. I save things that I like, and that I think have solid messages. Things that are really deep, or really artistic, um, and I share them. I remix and I share them, and I think the advertising point for that is just my taste in artistic expression. I think I post dope shit, so to speak, and I think I post stuff that really makes people think, in a very artistic way. So, um, or feel, you know what I mean? I think it's definitely worth. I just got to 499 followers. I am trying to I'm right there. So I'm getting. So once I get that 500, that's um one of the first milestones people get, and that's cool. That's cool. That'll be cool. And we're just gonna keep growing, and we're just gonna keep trying to build and grow, and one step at a time. And I have a project. Um, I mainly do all this so that I can maybe monetize a hobby, but more so it's like there is something to be said about, you know, sharing with the world in one way or another. Um, I feel like my main job is a job that kind of gives back to the world, and I, you know, want to do so this way as well. It's not just about making money, becoming successful and financially free and stuff like that. Like that stuff, that's awesome. That's great. But it's my way of like being a messenger for whatever. I can't say like a messenger for the truth or whatever, but like it's my way of I of adding to the world, of adding value to the culture, to the world, and stuff like that. I'm not, I'm a deep thinker. I'm not just like a heathen, or a bloviator, or like a psychopath, or an egomaniac, or anything like that. Like I'm an authentic, genuine, and deep thinker, and I really do think um, I have a feel for art, um, and so when I'm offering things to the audience, it's for those reasons as well. It's a genuine earning to contribute. Um, you know, I'm not just trying to put out slop. You know, does that mean what I do is perfect? No, not at all. Does that, you know what I mean? Like I've already told y'all, like crossing T's, dotting I's isn't necessarily my specialty, and I'm a one man show and stuff like that. Um, but um, it's definitely worth being in the ethos for sure. Um, and with all that being said, too, I told y'all I'm working on a project, and this project I plan on it being more than everything I've done, kind of combined. It's it's gonna be. I still can't say too much about it, and I'm not trying to be like any type of way. Like but it is. I'm really excited about it's gonna be something that hits and it continues, hopefully for generations, and and yeah, hopefully, yeah, we'll see. I'll tell you guys more about it later, but um yeah, that's pretty much where we are as far as a company, as a corporation, or whatever. Um, and Yeah, no, thank you guys for showing up. Thank you guys for your time, for listening, and check out some of my stuff. And next week, maybe we'll do something fun next week, depending on what's going on in the world and stuff like that. All right. Goodbye.